It's a Great American Seafood Cook-Off. It highlights the domestic seafood. In particular, we like to highlight Louisiana seafood, but we have great seafood from Alaska, from all over the country, and they cook up their special dish. So we're expecting some really top-notch dishes, and hopefully it'll bring new attention to domestic seafood, in particular Louisiana seafood.
What does Louisiana seafood mean to the nation and to the world?
Well, we're the number 1 or 2 producer of seafood in every category here in Louisiana. It's big business, but more importantly, people come to Louisiana to eat that great Louisiana seafood made by these great Louisiana chefs. So it's a part of our tourism. It's supports so many families across Louisiana, and such a part of our heritage and our way of life here. So we want to make sure we continue to promote great domestic seafood.
Welcome everybody to the 17th annual Great American Seafood Cook-Off, hosted here in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Dude, oh my goodness, Corey, it feels so good to be back, baby. Are you kidding me? Let's go, man.
We are back. We are back. We got somebody very special here on the stage with us, our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser. Everybody give him a hand.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for being back and hosting it. This is feels great to be back in person, to see the convention center filled with people. And I want to thank each and every one of our teams from around the country that want to be the king or queen of seafood. Best of luck to each of you and your teams. I also want to recognize the future chefs of America. And that's our 4-H kids that'll be competing here tomorrow.
Give them a hand.
Wow, I tell you, to be timed, cook, and make it so good is a special talent. And I'm excited to see those kids at 4-H tomorrow as I am to see these pros today. Yep. Good luck to everyone, and may the best team win. Thank you.
All right, just so y'all know how we are going to roll today, about noon we're going to kick off with our first chef, and then every 10 or 15 minutes another one will get started. We'll be walking you through all these culinary delights. Y'all give a hand to all these awesome chefs, all the way from as far as Guam to as close as right here in New Orleans, Louisiana. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There we go.
17th annual Great American Seafood Cook-Off is officially underway.
Today we have some black drum with some smoked Gouda shrimp and grits, corn emulsion, some clams with spinach and tasso ham. All the ingredients are locally sourced in our area. Fish comes right out of the sea, right where we live. Corn's a great crop that's grown very locally. Everything's just, from our area.
What are the seafood options in South Carolina?
The options are pretty endless. We have almost anything you could ever want. There'd just be too much for me to explain to you, really, but sky's the limit. The best thing is just the flavor of it. There's nothing else like fresh seafood.
How long have you been a chef?
20 years.
Tell us about how you first got interested in becoming a chef.
First got interested in being a chef, inspiration from home-cooked meals, grandmother, mom, and then I just love the industry. A lot of it in my area.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
I love it. Very exciting. Great thing to do for promoting culinary arts, and it's just a great showcase for us to have our talent put out there. Today's dish is a lightly blackened black drum. We have some candied pecans on top of that, shrimp and grits with Gouda cheese, a corn puree or velouté, roasted pepper coulis, and then we've got some clams with a creamed leek sauce and tasso ham. I hope you enjoy it. Any questions about anything before you start?
3, 2, 1. There we go.
Today we're going to feature the beautiful Alaskan black cod. We're also going to do my rendition of a Korean jjigae seafood broth.
How'd you get the idea for this?
Oh, it's definitely a long story, but long story short, it is kind of my homage to my first time in New Orleans. And coming into the city for the first time, wanting to experience everything in New Orleans. Actually, the first restaurants that I got to experience was a group of Asian restaurants on the corner of Alcee Forte Boulevard and US 90. And it was a smell of pho and Asian food that drew me to the restaurant. And that day, it was a daily special they had, was something I've never seen or tried before, and it was a seafood jjigae broth. And so when I tried that, I fell in love with it, and that just started my adventure in New Orleans. So when I think of New Orleans, I always think of that dish first, so I wanted to do that dish on my return to NOLA.
What's it like to cook with Alaskan seafood?
It's amazing. Alaskan seafood is beautiful, it's fresh, and the best thing about it, it's all wild, natural, and sustainable. And 60% of the world's seafood, or U.S. seafood, sorry, it comes from Alaska. And Alaska, beautiful, icy waters, the fish is amazing.
Tell us, what tips do you have for the chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
Tips for them first is be adventurous and get in there. Don't be shy. If you can read a recipe, you could totally do it. And bring friends over. The beauty of cooking and eating is the joy of bringing everyone around the table and having fun with it.
How did you get interested in becoming a chef?
Oh man, I've been eating from definitely could tell I've been eating from when I was a young child all the way up, from restaurants in New York City, all over the world, and just love food, and I just wanted to just be around it and cook it, and it's definitely a way that I can also, an outlet for my creativity.
Tell us, what's the trick to winning a competition like this?
A trick to winning is practice, well, with most everything. And also just keeping it simple. Don't try to do anything you've never done before. And also really showcase who you are and what you want the judges to see in yourself and in your dish. Now today, we lost a couple of our dishes on shipment. We were able to explore your city some more, and I Ubered around, saw the markets, and got to grab the ingredients that we need. So we're featuring the Alaska Black Cod, Alaska Barley Couscous. I did 4 different preparations of the daikon, cucumber, sprout salad, and the eggplant, and I garnished the sprout salad with a furikake that I made with the black cod skin.
I'm doing a trio of oysters, oyster trio. We're going to smoke one. It's going to be butter poached. The second one is going to be crispy fried cornmeal with a creamless corn, bacon, and hatch chilies. And then the third one is going to be oyster shooter. It's going to be a tomato water, kind of like a Bloody Mary.
How'd you get the idea for this?
Oysters are very, we have so much abundance of oysters in Texas. It's something that we love. It's Gulf oysters. And I started playing around with the idea. Texas is a lot of Tex-Mex spice, and also we have a lot of smoked barbecue. So that's where my idea started, playing around with the idea of coming up with the oysters.
How did you become a chef?
Watching my mom cook. When I was a little kid, I would pull up the chair and help her all the time. And from then on, I love cooking. So,
what advice do you have for the chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
Take your time. Learn the fish. Most important, when you are cooking the fish, pat it dry when you put it in a pan. Nice oil, pat it dry, season it. That's it. Keep it simple.
What's the trick to winning a competition like this?
A lot of planning. And making sure you have a plan B and a plan C. So oysters, I feel, are not really used as much as they should be used. We have an abundance of them, and the way I came about the dish, Texas is a lot of smoke. We do Texas barbecue. We have Tex-Mex, so a lot of spice. So I started playing around with the idea of hot and smoke. So starting off, you have a pickled oyster inside of a Bloody Mary shot. That's tomato water. Then you have a smoked butter poached oyster with a little crostini. And then you have a creamless corn with hatch chilies, bacon, and then we crispy fried the oyster.
Today we're gonna do a red coral trout and a lobster marriage. Kind of like an interesting mix, similar to a roulade. And then we're gonna serve that with some coconut rice. And we've got a trio of sauces and a little bit of flying fish roe, some creme fraiche, salted fish avocado puree, and lobster butter sauce.
How'd you get the idea for this?
Well, you know, when we're thinking seafood and domestic seafood in Guam, we have fish, we have lobster, 2 great things, put them together and try to bring out some of the good flavors, keep it light, keep it refreshing.
How'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
Well, in Guam, the culture kind of revolves around food, and it's a big thing for us to have food at every single event in our lives in Guam. So food just became like a big interest of mine at a young age, and I kind of stuck with it, and later went to culinary school and became a chef.
What are the seafood options in Guam?
It's quite a bit, actually. We have a lot of fish. We have crab, various types of crab. We have lobster, various types of lobster. There's octopus. There's sea snails like top shell and conch and a whole bunch of different varieties. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aquatic wildlife.
What's your tip for the chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
Seafood, very delicate product to use, and just keep it simple, keep it fresh, and always preserve the flavor of that seafood you're cooking. Don't overpower it with other stuff. Allow the natural flavors of the seafood to come out. Red coral trout and spiny lobster marriage. Kind of like a roulade. I called it a marriage because I brought the two flavors together. I have a red coral trout here and the spiny lobster, just for show and tell. The marriage is served with a coconut rice. It's got some essence of fermented shrimp and ginger, and of course coconut cream. I've got that with 3 different sauces. I've got a salted fish and avocado puree. Salted fish is kind of an ancient thing and still being practiced today in Guam and many other cultures. The sauce in the middle is a lobster butter sauce. And to the left, I have a citrus gastrique, which I thought the seafood needed some refreshing twist to it. And then I've got a spicy mango cherry tomato salsa.
Today we are going to take a trip through Cape Cod, and we're going to start in Sandwich, Mass, and we're going to have clam chowder, and then we're going to head to Chatham and have a beard battered fish and chips, and then we're going to finish it off in P-Town with a little lobster roll and fresh local greens. So we really wanted to showcase our domestic seafood and how we eat it throughout the freshest part of the Cape.
What are the seafood options in Massachusetts?
Oh, there's so many seafood options, and we have a lot of migratory fish as well, but lobsters, clams, scallops, haddock, cod, bluefin, mackerel, striped bass. I mean, it just keeps going on. So, and then we get swordfish when that's in season, which is really fantastic and delicious because it's eating all the, the fatty mackerel, and so we really enjoy that. And we also enjoy the tuna when it's coming up too.
How'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
I started washing dishes when I was 15 years old, and I just got hooked. I love the adrenaline, I love the camaraderie in the kitchens, and I just have been doing it ever since I was 15.
What is your tip for a chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
Comes to cooking seafood, first off, don't be intimidated by it. It's not as scary as it really is, and just take your time. It is fun to work with, but you have to cook it just right. So don't overcook it, and don't be afraid that it's going to smell up the house. Fresh fish shouldn't smell.
What is your advice to winning a competition like this?
Keep a level head and have fun. That's all I can say. It's you just got to keep your mind compartmentalized and organized and stay focused on the task at hand.
To represent the good state of Massachusetts with the wide variety of seafood that we have to offer. And I thought, what a better way than to take you on a road trip through Cape Cod. So as you cross over the Bourne Bridge and you enter on the Cape, you start in Sandwich, Mass, where we have our clam chowder, and that's where our surf clams are from. And then you travel down to Chatham, Massachusetts, and that's where we have our Boston lager, beer battered fish and chips. We then travel on to P-Town at the very end, or Provincetown is the full name of it, for your lobster roll. And we are serving that with a little bit of some fresh local greens. And they're from Devon's, Mass. And it's kind of cool because they've never been touched by human hands, okay, until you actually open the container. The garnish in the chowder is a sea salt and thyme oyster cracker. The sea salt that is in the center of your board is sea salt from the Atlantic Ocean that we boiled down and brought down with us so we could season our potato chips and then our oyster crackers with it. And then we reconstituted the water to bring back the Atlantic Ocean down here to cook our lobsters in. So enjoy the road trip.
I'm going to cook a pan-seared red snapper with a crawfish sofrito, mascarpone, turnip puree, and a butter sauce.
How'd you come up with the idea for this?
Well, and the first time that we did it in the virtual tour last year. So we weren't in a competitive mode, so it was more geared to the home cooks. This time brought my sous chef, and we want to step it up a notch and just be more creative with it with the time that we have to work with. So I thought it would be just an easy way to present it because we never did it on this type of capacity.
How'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
Followed my family steps. I fell in love with something that wasn't not the same every day. I used to love to eat a lot and everything, but it was the creative side. Especially when you're surrounded by good people that want to teach you, and you fall in love with it and just keep on going.
What's the best thing about cooking with Louisiana seafood?
Seafood itself, man. We're so indigenous to the varieties and species that we have. I mean, the list goes on, and I think that been here 20 years, and every day could be something different.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
Well, you know what? I'm representing Louisiana. Just want to compete with other people around the country that you really don't know, and there's going to be a lot of high expectations, and for me, I'm just going to focus and trying to keep the crown here in Louisiana.
What tips do you have for the chef at home?
Well, keep it real, enjoy, less complexity, keep it simple, and focus on fresh ingredients every day, and the simplest presentations you could possibly do.
I prepared to you today is a pan-seared red snapper with the skin on. It's seasoned lightly with a little bit of salt and pepper. Underneath, I did a crawfish sofrito. And one of the seasonings that I use there is a chorizo seasoning, which has chilies grounded up with corn husks. I oven roasted the corn husks to give it a nice earthy flavor, and folded in the crawfish, and it's served with a mascarpone turnip puree. I like the sweetness of the texture. We ran the turnips through a chinois to get a nice, fluffy, thin layer. And I did a traditional old-fashioned beurre blanc that I do the reduction with lemon, white wine, and red wine vinegar.
We are cooking a Alabama yellow-edge grouper from the Gulf Coast. I'm actually wrapping that in a roasted poblano pepper. It's then going to be served on a Gulf shrimp, Conecuh bacon, and elote corn risotto. I'm topping that with a little bit of Veracruzano sauce, saffron in it, and then I'm going to put a little cilantro lime crema over the whole dish to kind of tie it together.
How'd you get the idea for that?
Well, it's kind of from my heritage, and it's also a lot of the flavors that I like. So I've got one grandma that's Italian, and that's the risotto part, and then I've got another grandma that's Latina, and so I'm kind of using that Mexican Veracruz style sauce, the cilantro and the lime and the crema in there.
How did you get interested in becoming a chef?
I've always liked cooking, but when I got my first job as a chef, in a kitchen, working under a chef, I should say, I just loved it. I really didn't want to go home. I love being with the food. I love the environment. I love the flavors, the excitement, the thrill, and I had a knack for it. And so fortunately, someone mentored me and took me under their wing and showed me a lot and pointed me in the right direction to get the skills that I needed honed to be able to be a chef on my own right.
What tips do you have for the chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
Well, seafood's a very delicate and fragile canvas. It has some wonderful flavors, but honestly, you want to make sure not to overpower the dish. You want to make sure not to overcook the dish, and you want to appreciate sort of the diet of the fish, and that has a indicator of what the flavors might be of each particular seafood that you're using. I'm just so excited to finish this dish and looking forward to having you dive in and get a taste of it. So today what I prepared is really an inspiration and representation of my heritage. I have two very strong cultures in my background, my Italian grandma and then my Hispanic Latina grandma. And so I kind of combine those flavors here, something I grew up on, something I'm comfortable with, something I enjoy. And really my style of cooking here is representative of what I like to do. It's very simple elegance. I go for the flavors. I go for the harmony. I go for the composition of multi-layers in each bite. So I'm using the yellow edge grouper, as you know, which is a great fish. I've wrapped it. I did several different cooking techniques too. I sort of used the acid cooking of the lime prior to searing the fish. And then I did the sauteing And then I also did a simmering with the Veracruz sauce. I sort of did a speed simmer on a long cooking sauce. And then I also did roasting. When the fish was all put together, I put it in the oven just to get that last bit of infused flavor in it. So I hope you really enjoy, and what I desire to accomplish here is that you get a taste of love from Alabama, their great bounty of their ingredients, and even the plate is made by a Alabama pottery company called Prodigal Pottery, and they created it just for you today to enjoy. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you again. It's been an honor to meet you and cook for you.
I am doing a rainbow and a steelhead trout, tricolored quinoa with a mushroom ragu, and heirloom carrots with Pennsylvania honey.
Tell us a little bit about the seafood options in Pennsylvania.
Well, we are a landlocked state, so we have more lakes and rivers to fish from, so that's why I chose the steelhead trout and the rainbow trout, because you can catch those in our state.
What is the inspiration for this dish?
The idea is that it's love on a plate, and my restaurant is called Love Rocks Cafe, and as you see I'm wearing red, so I try to put love into everything I do, and the dish is very representative of love. So there's going to be the fish will be woven into a basket, like into a hashtag type things for hugs and kisses. The quinoa will be pressed into a heart shape, and then the rest of the items will go on there, and it's a very colorful dish that is representative of the United States.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
I love it. This is my second time being here, so I'm looking forward to getting in and just doing what I do.
What is your advice for the chef at home?
I would say to experiment. Try, if you think it tastes good, try it. You know, you don't always have to go by the recipe. You can leave things out or add to it to make it what you like. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am the chef and owner of Love Rocks Cafe. I was forced to go into the restaurant business because at 47, when I got my culinary degree, I couldn't get a job anywhere because I was considered too old. So they forced me, and the year that I opened the restaurant, I was best new restaurant in Pittsburgh, top 10 best new restaurant. So that let me know that I was okay with what I was doing. So this dish is a play on love on the plate. So the hashtag fish is kind of like X and O's for hugs and kisses. You get the heart-shaped multicolored quinoa and the multicolored carrots with Pennsylvania honey and a mushroom ragu. And the colors are, to me, supposed to represent the United States. People always say that we're a melting pot. We are not. We are individually beautiful, but when we put all those things together, we can make something even more beautiful. And so that's what I tried to create on this plate. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Ooh, we're gonna make you off-the-cob fresh corn tamal with some roasted green chilies inside. We're gonna top that off with the veggie cream or shrimp veggie cream sauce. So it's like a loaded tamal. We wanted to bring the Mexican tradition out here for you in Louisiana. So
how'd you get the idea for this?
It was hard. It was a hard week of thinking. I just wanted to do something that we do in the restaurant and make it seafood, you know, incorporate the seafood with it.
Tell us, how'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
Oh man, ever since I was little, I could remember making breakfast for my little brother, like taking care of my cousins and making sure they got fed, and now I just got to make sure more people get fed.
What is the trick to winning a competition like this?
You know, I think you just got to put your heart in it. I don't really think about the winning aspect. I'm here to just soak it all in, enjoy it. But you just got to be yourself. You got to be genuine. You got to know what you're doing.
What are the seafood options in Arizona?
Exactly. That's why it was a challenge for me to come up with the seafood dish, because we have no oceans. We have no fresh seafood in Arizona. It's all shipped in. But we made it work. We're here.
I went with the green corn tamal for you today with the roasted green chilies and mozzarella cheese inside. I topped it off with that veggie cream sauce. A lot of I would say home food here for you. I guess that's it. My inspiration for this dish was our handmade tamales, fresh masa, gluten-free. It's a big trend, but yeah, enjoy.
Today we are doing Gulf Red Snapper. We're gonna pan sear that, and then we're doing an heirloom tomato risotto. We also brought some snapper throats, which are kind of hard to find. We're gonna be butter poaching those, and we're gonna do snapper throat debris on the plate. We also brought wild Everglade cherry tomatoes that were sourced locally in Pensacola. We're gonna be marinating those, and then those are gonna go on the plate around. We'll also have charred poblano going on the plate, and let's see what else we put on there. Yeah.
How'd you get the idea for this?
Just trying to figure out what I can get locally, you know, sourcing. I mean, there's a lot of boat captains out here where I live, so just trying to put something together.
What are the seafood options in Pensacola, Florida?
It's wide open. There's so many options. It's pretty much, you know, anything that you can get out of the Gulf, we have it there.
How'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
A long time ago, when I was about 19 years old, it was a way to make money. I mean, for real. I was struggling out of college, and it just turned out that food, you know, people are always gonna eat, and that's how I decided to stay in that business.
What tip do you have for the chef at home when it comes to cooking seafood?
I would say if you're cooking fish, I like to use a smoking hot pan, and then also crank up my oven to about 500 degrees. That way you get a nice crust on the outside and it's nice and flaky on the inside.
All right, so I really wanted to bring a Florida dish. You know, I was thinking about all the things and all the people that I know, all the fishermen, all the farmers, and all the things that you can source locally in Pensacola. I went with Gulf Snapper. It's one of my favorites, a light, flaky fish. You can sear it at a high temperature, and it is just delicious. It melts in your mouth. I like coarse black pepper as well, so that kind of gives it that nice bite to it as well. What we did with the mushrooms, this is a crab fat sauteed king trumpet mushrooms. These came from JV Foods, and we scored them and we sauteed them in butter, and then we hit them with crab fat, and we kind of finished them with the crab fat, so you'll taste just a little bit of that in there. If you notice on the plate, you have these tiny little cherry tomatoes. These are actually wild Everglade cherry tomatoes. They're super hard to source. I babied them the entire way here. What we did was we popped the skins off of them in a fryer, and then I marinated them with garlic, fresh thyme, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and salt and pepper, just real simple. And I think that helps to kind of cut through that risotto, all that creaminess.
So we're gonna do a little yellow eyes snapper. We're gonna prepare it 3 different ways for you today. So we're gonna do a raw preparation, a grilled preparation, and a poached preparation. I don't wanna give too much away though, because it's gonna be a surprise.
How'd you get the idea for this?
Just working with the fish. We're gonna use all different parts of it. We're gonna make sure that we kind of utilize every little piece of it, and so we kind of let the fish dictate what we're gonna be doing.
What kind of seafood options do you have in Mississippi?
So we live on the coast in Mississippi, and we have a plethora of really awesome seafood options. Our restaurant's actually right on the Gulf, and we have beautiful brown shrimp, we have nice blue crabs, we have awesome off-bottom aquaculture oysters, and then of course just, you know, awesome Gulf seafood, you know, fresh fish.
How'd you get interested in becoming a chef?
I started cooking at a pretty young age. My mom's side of my family's from New Orleans, and so food has always been really important in our family. And so, you know, getting in the kitchen with my mom, my grandpa, stuff like that, and you know, just decided to make a career out of it.
What tips do you have for the chef at home?
Know who you're getting your seafood from. I feel like that's a big part. If you make a relationship with you know, with your local fishmonger, and you can actually get something that's fresh, they'll usually guide you on what's the best that day. Starting with a better ingredient, always end up with a better ingredient.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
Well, this is our obviously first year, but we're excited. We enjoy competitively cooking, so you know, it's just fun to get out of the restaurant for a day and do something like this.
First off, that's really fun. A lot of adrenaline going right now. So anyway, right into the dish. Meant to be eaten left to right. This is our progressive snapper dinner here. So we wanted to really highlight the fish itself and show the versatility of it. So we tried to use as many parts and pieces as we could. At our restaurant at White Pillars, we do all nose to tail cookery. So we try to make sure that we're using as much of those beautiful products as we can. So the first on your left is a crudo done with the fillet of the snapper. With lots of citrus. There's some salt and pepper cucumbers in there, all of the flowering herbs out of our garden, and some just really nice bright flavors there. Light olive oil. Try to let the fish shine through on that one. It doesn't have a lot of seasoning, that kind of thing. You really want to taste the actual fish.
We're cooking monkfish, seared monkfish, and we're pairing it with Maine's local produce. So I went to the farmer's market, got some great produce there. Maine's season starts a little bit after New Orleans, a bit colder up there. So you'll see that we'll still have stuff like garlic scape. That's typically earlier in the season. I have garlic scape of us. That's what we have in the summer. So I'm really excited to bring that. The monkfish, sustainable fish. It's a really ugly fish, so it definitely needs a voice, but it's really delicious. It's one of my favorite fishes.
How did you get interested in cooking?
I started very, very young. My uncle had a restaurant and I helped out there, but just all through my life, front of the house, back of the house, I've been around food. I just love food.
Tell us, what is your advice for the chef at home?
Try everything. A lot of research. I like to research. I do a lot of research before I start cooking. I just want to make something great and well. And there are a lot of small regions around the world where they make something very specific. Their variation might be just a little bit different from something else, and it might change the dish completely.
What are the seafood options in Maine?
Everyone knows lobster. Lobster's always popular, but monkfish. Monkfish is great. They're really great mussels too, actually. Cold water stuff.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
I love it. I am happy to see all the different types of seafood across America, and of course happy to bring Maine's.
So here we have a seared monkfish with what really is a early summer dish in New Orleans, but for us in Maine, it's a late summer. We've got a late harvest there. So you see some green tomatoes, we still see some garlic scapes there. And I really wanted to bring Maine's dishes, but then to New Orleans, and I know it's hot here, so I wanted something more thirst quenching. So I did a quick pickle on the beans there.
We have got a very unusual fish today. This is a Mackinac lake trout, but this is from Flathead Lake. And the thing that makes it unusual is that it eats mysis shrimp. And so this fish tastes and looks like salmon. But the only people that are allowed to harvest it for this fishery are the Native American Indians that have settled that land hundreds of years ago. And this lake trout is a non-native species. It was introduced in 1905 by the Great Northern Railroad. And so the local tribes there, they're trying to get the lake back to pristine conditions again. And so they've set up this not-for-profit fishery, okay, just to be able to target this lake trout. And so it's making and generating money. All the proceeds go back to the conservation of the lake and trying to restore Mother Nature to what she once was.
How did you get the idea for this?
You know, we don't have a whole lot of seafood in Montana. You know, we all love fishing and all. And just through kind of doing some research, trying to find good seafood for our restaurants, Revelry, Jam, and Dave's Sushi up in Bozeman, Montana. I bumped into these seafood guys, and they turned me on to a young lady named Lynn, and she is in charge of the fish operations in Polson, Montana, right at the south end of Flathead. And so she and I struck up a conversation. It's a fascinating story, but these guys are just working so hard to do what's right, not only for them, but also for Mother Earth.
What tips do you have for the chef at home?
I think seasoning, for sure. You know, you got to make sure you're cooking your fish right. You know, fish, you have a very small window of opportunity. So try to get all the rest of your ingredients done, try to get all the rest of the seasoning and all the rest of the dishes, so when it comes time to finish your fish, a little bit of seasoning, plate your dish, and then right on to the judges. But in this case, you know, the family members at home.
What do you think of the Great American Seafood Cook-Off?
I think it's fascinating. You know, I've been a part of this for years and years now. We had the lucky opportunity to bring home the title back in 2009 for Louisiana. And so for me to now represent the state of Montana and go head-to-head again, it's going to be pretty fascinating.
So I have something very special for you today. You know, we all know lake trout around North America,
but it's only in Flathead Lake in the northwest section of Montana that the huge lake trout eat mysis shrimp. The mysis shrimp were introduced in 1967, actually by accident. And the trout itself is a non-native species. So when the Great Northern Railroad came through from the Great Lakes to Seattle, Washington, they got the idea that they wanted to plant lake trout in all the lakes along the way. So should anything ever happen, there'd be a food source for Americans, bolstering the growth of this country. So this is the only fishery in Montana. They're only brought to harvest by the Native Americans that live in Polson, Montana. It's a 100% not-for-profit type of fishery. So let's hope that this is not sustainable. The idea here is we want to try to fish out the lake trout and make room for the native cutthroat and bull trout, which are absolutely amazing and amazing trophy fish. So it's a pretty darn cool story. The dish itself, we brine our fish, and then we would smoke it like the Native Americans would on the side of the lake. I brought in some pine bark to be able to smoke that fish just as if we were there in Montana. And then it's gently poached in fresh lemon, a little white wine reduction, fresh Montana lentils, and a little sauce around the outside. So I hope you enjoy.
I just want to thank everyone for coming down to Louisiana. The love and passion you put into this food is incredible. I want to thank our judges and everybody with the Restaurant Association. Stan Harris putting on a great show this year. Let's give him and his team a round. And last but not least, Sam, the seafood lady, I call her, and her team that did a great job here. Sam, thank you.
The moment we've all been waiting for, the start of the moment. Here we go, third place, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh.
Tori McPhail from Montana.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Tori. Congratulations. A top 3 finish, man. Big time.
All right, here we go, number 2.
Here we go. Look, man, that energy's building. Crowd, how we feeling out there? Y'all doing all right?
Denise Herrera from Massachusetts.
Let's go.
Fantastic.
Ooh,
there you go.
Boy, the butterflies are rolling, baby. Here we go, ladies
We got
and
a little
gentlemen.
tradition when it comes to crowning a new king or queen. And there it is. You got to, whoever I announce, you got to come take a knee for that crown, all right?
That's it, man. Corey, you ready? Here we go, baby.
Woo,
Here we go,
I'm
baby.
nervous,
Let's
man.
go, man.
I love it. I love it.
Uh-oh.
Austin Summerall
Hey,
from Mississippi.
baby. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, man. Good job. Oh, catch a knee, baby. Come on, baby. Hey, Ali, let's go. Oh, let's give me some, baby. Yeah, you're right. Come on, man. Yeah, let's get Mom in the mix, too, man. Here we go.
When you see the mighty girl, somebody
All
tell
right.
you what's carnival for. Get your ticket
you're right.
in your hand.
Come on.
You wanna go to New Orleans. Get your ticket.
I'm completely blown away, about speechless for sure. Incredible chefs here, a lot of people that I really, really respect, and we're just happy to be competing. But we did come to win, and we're excited that we did.
What did you cook up here?
So we did a snapper 3-way dish. We did a raw preparation. We grilled some snapper ribs, and we poached a snapper jowl in a pho broth.
I'm overwhelmed. I'm actually going to start crying right now. That was really, I'm really very happy, very proud of everything that my team accomplished today, and I couldn't have done it without them.
Tell us, what did you cook up here?
So we displayed Massachusetts seafood by our clam chowder, beer battered fish and chips, and then we did a lobster roll.
Is that a taste of Massachusetts?
That's a taste of Massachusetts. That sure is, yeah. We wanted to represent where the seafood comes from and show them how you can take a road trip down the Cape and have every bit of delicious seafood that everyone else has in the nation as well.
I'm just absolutely thrilled to be, and very honored to be on the stage with amazing chefs like my friends over here. And man, what an amazing weekend in New Orleans, showcasing the very best of American seafood.
Well, we're excited because this is such a great competition. It's time, they're on the clock, and they've got to make it just perfect. So we're excited and looking forward to another great year of Louisiana seafood.